I wish I could tell you that Rami Malek and Indira Varma are the best thing about Oedipus at the Old Vic, but that wasn't the case. However, there is one thing that absolutely stole the show, so let me tell you more about that. Going to see Oedipus, you know what you're getting yourself into. This Greek tragedy written by Sophocles follows King Oedipus, our tragic hero, who unwittingly kills his father and marries his mother, and in the process brings devastation to his city and his people. It sounds pretty grim, because it is, but ultimately it is a story about fate and free will, love and fear, knowledge and power. Seeing this version of Oedipus at the Old Vic is quite something, because I think this is one of the boldest Old Vic productions that I had witnessed. And bear in mind that I go to Old Vic quite a lot, and it was my most visited theater last year. So let's dive into the most impressive and less impressive elements of this show. Undoubtedly, one thing that everyone who goes to see the show will talk about is Hofesh Shechter's dance company. This is that wow effect of this production, and the dance company really brings something unique and one of a kind to Oedipus at the Old Vic. Dance company here isn't just for entertainment purposes, but it actually replaces the Greek chorus, which happens quite a few times throughout this Greek tragedy, and it's normally delivered in singing or chanting or just speech. In this case, all of that is completely stripped down and we only have movement, but it's not any kind of movement. It is movement choreographed by Hofesh Shechter, who is a very well-known and established name in stage world because he's a choreographer, a musician, composer, and also a co-director of this show. So that being said, he's not only the mastermind behind the movement and choreography, but he has also written the score and music for this show. And there's such an important part of this story because Oedipus is faced with a really challenging task, which is he needs to save his people because they're suffering from drought, there's no water, and he needs to find a solution for them. And these dancers come in with very erratic dance movements, but they're also so perfectly combined and they blend together really well with both the set and the storyline. And you can tell a lot about the emotion of those scenes through just that movement. So it was really, really impressive seeing this, and the music that is full of drums and this rhythm. It resembles a little bit of religious ritual at times, and it really brings that feeling of something big coming and preparing us for what's going to unfold throughout the show. And the most impressive thing about these dancers, which really shows how amazingly talented they are, is that they dance in these groups, but then suddenly the whole auditorium goes pitch black and you literally can't see anything, but then they appear in a different spot on stage in a perfect formation, aligned, and continue their dancing. So this kind of movement of them throughout the stage, and also the times when they are coming into the show, was really impressive to see, and it definitely brought that energy and the mood of the show in the right way. The dance group of about 8 to 12 dancers appears quite a few times in very significant moments, but the most impressive dance of them all to me was when they were dancing in the rain, which is the first time that the people of Thebes see the rain after months of drought, and then they are like dancing and welcoming this rain, and it was really impressive to see because there was also water on stage and it really looked like it was raining. So overall, all these really important elements in the show are interpreted through this dance. And actually, Oedipus, Rami Malek, when he first appears on stage, he comes in escorted by these dancers. So let's talk about Rami Malek. When you have a name like this making their UK stage debut, the expectations are high. He has portrayed some really big characters on the big screen, won an Oscar, so what can go wrong when it comes to him portraying this also incredibly complex character on stage? Well, nothing really, but I think this will boil down to personal preferences. The character of Oedipus is extremely complex to play because of how multifaceted this role is. Oedipus is the king to his people who are turning to him to lead them. He's also a husband to his wife who is questioning him and making him see the world from a slightly different perspective. He's also a father to 2 daughters. He is also a man with this burden of big and horrible prophecy heavy on his shoulders. And while Rami Malek delivers on all these elements of the character to a degree, I don't think that there is one particular anchor for him to help solidify this identity in the emotional sense. I didn't trust him enough as a leader, and I think this is also partially because of the way that these big scenes are delivered, because it's only a few of them on the stage, and what the people of Thebes are saying is delivered through speakers, so at no point there's this feeling of him leading these masses. You can only kind of hear them. On the other hand, his relationship with the queen and his wife and mother, it is also slightly distant. There are elements of the two of them coming together, but not to that point that you're really feeling a lot of passion and love between them. And I would say that the most believable relationship that he offers in this version is the relationship with Antigone, where he is very caring and kind and compassionate towards her. However, there are only a few instances where he actually interacts with his daughter, and that's actually how the story also ends. So those are those moments where you can really see how much he cares for her. But other than that, his character feels a little bit distant and removed, and I think where maybe I expected a bit more from the emotional reaction and emotional buildup is actually when the prophecy is revealed to be true, and when he finds out that his wife is actually his mother. And while this is all devastating, I think that there was that element of distant emotion that he has handled in a way that doesn't make you feel too sorry for him, or it doesn't make it feel as tragic as it is. I think Indira Varma in this regard delivers a stronger performance, where she is definitely pushing for that emotional connection and finding the way to really show to the audiences how impactful and devastating this is for their lives and what this actually means. I mean, if we just think about the storyline, it is horrific. But it is really hard for her as an actor to be in this relational vacuum, I'd say, because if one side is very distant and removed, then even that love and care from her is greeted with a little bit of a wall. And I feel that maybe in that relational dynamic between the two of them, there hasn't been a lot to bring them together. There's been a lot of things to kind of draw them apart. And I think Rami maybe leaned more into that, whereas Indira's approach was more to go towards him. And at times this really works, but from my perspective, there was that element of needing a slightly more intense emotional reaction to what I'm seeing, which maybe I didn't receive in this show. So as mentioned, Indira Varma is slightly more believable in her role of a wife and a mother and the queen, and she is definitely a strong character that feels very grounded, and it's almost the voice of reason, and it is very stable character, I'd say. I feel like she has the clearest idea of who Jocasta actually is, and I think this has come through with her portrayal, because I think all of her character's choices are very well measured and kind of delivered in the right way. There was one scene where Rami and Indira's connection and chemistry actually worked really well, and it was a really impactful scene because it was just about we as audience are aware that things will be revealed and they will find out who they are to each other, but then they like passionately make out in the middle of the stage while dancers are kind of coming towards them. And this was a really emotional moment, but also twisted moment because of we know what's coming. And I think that was the only moment where that passion between the two of them was a bit more visible. I do think that both of these actors, as well as the rest of the cast, has delivered their roles with a lot of care and attention to detail, but it just feels that the main cast was very individualistic and kind of self-absorbed, whereas the dancers were very much functioning as a group. And if that was the idea behind this, then I'm on board with it. But I think when it comes to bringing them together, I kind of missed something there to really feel connection to these characters like I did to the dancers. What contributed to this feeling of characters being in their own bubbles is also the set. And I do think the set is spectacular at times, and it played with some like really amazing design and light. It kind of is very simple and very deserted. So on stage there seemingly isn't anything, because when you look at it, it is pretty much a black box that at times has some projections at the back, and then the only movable part of the set is this little square space that lifts up and lights up when Oedipus is on it, or when there are like certain scenes. Otherwise, when the dancers are on, it goes down and then it's completely like normal stage. So there isn't a lot of happening on stage. And then when you have this really big stage and only like 5 to 6 actors portraying these characters and then dances, it kind of like leaves a lot of room on stage to maneuver, but then the movement apart from dancing doesn't really happen. It is a very post-apocalyptic dystopian style of set design, which I think definitely resonates with the story and how it is delivered. It's a little bit Black Mirror-esque. But then when it comes to provoking that emotion and making you feel something, I think that that's where the actors really have a massive challenge on their hands, because what normally is in some other productions delivered just with this kind of set design and coziness, there's nothing. It's completely bare for them to play with and help audiences feel something. The set design was really impressive when it comes to delivering certain scenes, because there were these 2 panels that were kind of moving and they will be of different widths. So depending on if it's a passage or if it's like a bigger kind of scene and opening and dancers are in that space, it would kind of close or open depending on the scene. But the most impressive part of the design was definitely when it started raining, which is a big moment in the show because there were months without rain, without water, and then this is the first time when people of Thebes are experiencing rain again, and this was beautifully done with dances in it, and it was actual rain on stage. One thing that made the set more epic is definitely light design, which adds a lot of mystery and dimension to this production. It starts with dancers and the way that they are lit up when they start performing, and they are in this dim light and sometimes no light when they're like moving from one spot to the other. However, when the cast comes on stage and Rami and Indira and the rest of the cast, it is very bright, to that extent that at the very back there's this like really bright orange color that is throughout present in the show to simulate almost feeling like you're in a desert. The middle part of the stage is also lit up when it kind of raises up, and that's where Oedipus spends the most time. It is normally lit up in this white color, and also Oedipus is wearing this white suit, which I guess could symbolize also his innocence in this sin and in this prophecy. But I would also argue that it symbolizes the fact that when this tragedy was written, the whole action and the plot of the story happens in front of the people of Thebes, which almost puts Oedipus at this podium where he is constantly speaking from and addressing. My overall thoughts are that this play is well worth seeing. The director Matthew Warchus has had a very bold vision for this project, and he has managed to bring it to life. It is definitely a play that people will talk about, that people are going to either love or hate, and the same goes for Rami Malek and Indira Varma's performances. I think there will be people who will be really stunned to just see both of them on stage. And if you're a fan of these actors, there's no better way to engage with them and see them on stage than seeing them in a production of this scale. This play has a pretty short run until the end of March, and there are still some tickets available, so if you would like to see it, then go and check out Old Vic's website. But if you are wondering what are the best ways to make sure that you're getting the best value for your money when it comes to securing tickets, then check out this video where I'm talking about my favorite ways.